It's time for another Dice Tower review with Z. Garcia.
Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at a Study in Emerald 2nd edition. This is sort of a streamlined version of the original A Study in Emerald from designer Martin Wallace. And the game is based on a short story from Neil Gaiman here that is the story. Basically, the theme of the game is the Elder Gods have taken over the world already. It's happened some time ago, and the players in the game are either okay with that, you're a loyalist to the royalty, the Elder Gods, or you're not okay with that and you want to bring down the system. You want to, things to be the way they used to be. So, and in that setting, you also have, it's in the 1800s, late 1800s, and so you'll have, it's a Sherlock Holmes themed story as well. So think Cthulhu meets Sherlock Holmes, okay? That's what's happening in the game. I'm going to give you an overview of how the game works. There's a lot of mechanisms here. You have deck building, and you have secret identities, and you have action selection. There's a lot happening. So let me show you how this all works together, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you what I thought of it and what I think of it a little bit compared to the original game. So here's what the game looks like, mostly set up, ready to begin. Everybody has their own agent, everybody has their own influence cubes, your own deck of cards. You prep the rest of the decks. Each one of them has to have its city card, its royalty card, which is the ancient old one, right? The Elder God, as well as several other random cards, and then you shuffle them up and reveal the top one in each. If when you reveal one, it is the Elder God, then you move that one down a bit, and you reveal the next one so that one's, so another card is always available besides the Elder God, the royalty. And then finally, you give every player one of these cards, a secret identity card, which I have here revealed, but they should be hidden in the game. And what you need to do in the game depends on what secret identity you got. If you are a loyalist like this one here, you are trying to keep things the way they are. You want to maintain the status quo. You like the way things are going with Cthulhu and his buddies having taken over. And you are trying to take out the Restorationists. The Restorationists are, of course, trying to take down the Elder Gods and bring things back to the way they were. That's basically the general idea. You will not know at the beginning of the game who is who, so that's part of the drama in the game, is figuring out who's on what side. The game turns, before I get to that, let me talk about how the game ends and what you're going for. Most points wins, obviously. The game end trigger depends on the number of players. I have a game here set up for 4 players, so 22 points. As soon as anyone hits that, the game's going to be over, and then you would check who actually wins. Because when you score points in this game, they are either generic points, those count for you no matter who you are, okay, what side you're working for, or you're going to get loyalist points, or you're going to get restorationist points. However, once the end game trigger has happened, you would then check, and if I'm a loyalist, any restorationist point I've scored, I deduct. And of course, vice versa for the other team. And so the end game trigger, what you're actually scoring here is potential points, not your real score. That's how that works, okay? So what you're doing on your turn is very straightforward. You have your own deck of cards that at the beginning of the game you're going to shuffle up, and you're going to draw 5 cards from. And then on your turn, you take 2 actions. The actions are fairly straightforward. Here's what they are. You can place influence cubes. You can claim a card, one of these cards here. You can retrieve influence cubes, meaning give yourself more from here, or even some sitting out here. You can move your agents. If your agents are out here, you can move markers if that would apply. You can perform an assassination, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Discard cards. You can take a card, action, or you can pass. That sounds like a lot, but it's really not. And here's why it's not. Everything you do in this game comes from these cards. Every card has some symbols at the top, across the top of it. And so, for example, let's say my first thing I want to do is place cubes, which is a very typical action you're going to take near the beginning of the game. This card here gives me two, as you can see, there's two little cubes with an arrow pointing down and one little cube with an arrow pointing up. If I play this card as my first action, I put it in my discard, I'm going to place, let's say I want to place cubes, I can place two cubes anywhere I want. And by the way, there should be, at the beginning of the game, everybody would have set up two of their agents somewhere on the board, so I'll just randomly put these out for now, but you would go around the board and put out some agents. Alright? So, I take my two cubes, I put them anywhere I want. I could put them here, for example. Or I can break them up however I want. If I want, I can even play more cards together. So if I play both of these cards together, that's 3 cubes. And I could put another one. That's still one single action. The one with the little cube pointing up means retrieve cubes. And so again, let's say I can play both of these cards. There are 2 of those symbols among both, with both together. I would get 2 cubes. I could take them here from these and put them back in my general supply, or I could move them from out here. Typically, they do come from these. The other actions are the same thing. You can retrieve cards. To do that, you need to have the majority of influence in that space and at least 1 cube there, and you would take cards. That has to be your first action out of the 2 you can take on your turn, but same thing. You play a card that has the little symbol there for gaining cards. Discard that and take this and put it in your discard, and it becomes part of your deck, because there is some deck building in this game. And the other ones are pretty straightforward also. The little ladder seen on both of those cards there lets you move an agent from one place to another. The agent, you could pick it up, put it anywhere else you want. The reason you want to do that is for both influence and possibly assassination of either another character, another agent, or the royalty, the elder god. Again, it depends what you want to do. Depends on who you are, what your secret identity is. The other ones are on other cards that you'll be gaining. And of course, every card you gain out here is going to give you more symbols, is going to give you new abilities. Some of them have actions printed on them that you can play and then take that action. And some of them, when you gain them, such as this one here, across the very top there, it has a little outline of an agent. When you gain that card, you put an agent on that city, and then you take the card, discard pile, everything else you do with it. And then that's it. That's all that center space will do. It won't do anything else. As you can see on some of them, there are also little bomb icons. The way that works is like this. Let's say I figured out that green is not on my team. I want to take them out. I have to have more influence there than they do. So in this case, I have my agent and 2 influence to their 1 agent. That's fine. In order to assassinate, I have to have an agent. And just like in order to take a card, I have to have influence cubes. I am going to, from my hand, play a card that allows for the assassinate action. Like this one here, called a hired assassin. There is that symbol there. It's an A with a starburst around it. I'm going to play that card to trigger the assassinate action, and then I have to play as many bomb symbols from my hand, which are these right here, in order to beat the city's value, which is printed right on the board. So in this case, 4. If I get to that 4, I assassinate the character. I put them on this assassinate card. That's going to be out of my deck. And at the end of the game, I'll score some points for that. But those are loyalist points. If I'm a restorationist, or if they were not a restorationist, I don't get those points. So again, you want to be careful who you're assassinating. You are always in this game getting potential points. So that's basically it. Some of the cards will also let you move one of these tracks up. And that is, once again, potential points to one side or the other. Every time you do this, so let's say someone plays a card, takes an action that gives the restorationists 1 point. For example, getting this Cairo card and then playing it for that little arrow there means the restorationist track moves up 1, which I just did. Everybody at that point would get 1 victory point, because you always score the difference between these 2 tracks. Those are, again, potential points. If this is on then 3, then everybody gets the difference, and later if this one goes up 1, everybody loses a point because that's the difference, the potential points that you're scoring throughout the game. The city cards, as I said, will give you victory points as well, but those are generic. Those work for you no matter what. You're going to get those points. Doesn't matter what side you work for. So here's a look at the secret identity cards. They tell you when you reveal them, obviously what team you're on, and also what action you take or what happens as the card gets revealed. As you can see, the restoration is going insane, triggers the end of the game. The other one does not. And you sort of get a boost, in fact, if you're a loyalist and your card is revealed. So there is those. Also, let me show you some cards here that come in the game. The first here, this is a city card, just so you have an idea how those work. Some victory points, the city where it gets shuffled into at the beginning of the game, and then some symbols you can use. This one, again, moves the token up on the loyalist track right here on the board, okay? And this is the associated royalty that goes in Constantinople, as it says right there. Difficulty to blow it up is 4. 3 victory points, only if you're a restorationist. Roll a sanity token. And then just some cards here. Obviously, as I said in the intro, the game has a Sherlock Holmes theme. So you're going to see Holmes and Professor Moriarty and things like that. This one has quite a few tokens. When you win it, you put out an agent. You can use it for any of these symbols. It has some bombs if you want to use it for blowing up something. And then down here, if you used it for an assassination, that's where you would put the other player's character. This card would be removed from your deck, and you get 5 victory points if you are a loyalist and they were a restorationist. That's the only way that happens, which is why those are color-coded, okay? Then you have right there a few cards that are going to give you actions. Sometimes they're free actions, which means it doesn't count towards your 2 per turn. And sometimes they're one-use actions, meaning one time in the whole game. This one lets you discard the top card from any pile on the board, just so you can dig through and look for something else you want. Again, some symbols across the top. You have here the People's Will, which is a one-use free action, one time. You're going to retrieve all of your cubes from Limbo. The section here on the board, as I explained, where your cubes go after you, at the beginning of the game and after you take a card. Here you have the Infernal Machine, which is a one-time use of 3 bombs. Very dangerous. Kaboom. And then Sherlock Holmes himself here, which has an interrupt, which lets you negate when someone else would kill one of your agents. Very cool card. Of course, some of these cards are better for one side or the other sometimes, but you still can take them even if they don't seem like they would help your secret agenda more, both to keep the other player from using it against you, and because of all these symbols up here, which are still good to go. As you saw in the secret cards, you don't want to run out of agents on the board, and so if you do, then the game's going to be over, and you see who the winning side is. Again, taking away points that don't match your side. Most points is the winner of the game. That's basically it. So let's go back up top, and let me give you some final thoughts about this game here. As far as this game goes, compared to the original edition of the game, I do like this one better. I think it's been streamlined. It's about an hour long. The original was sometimes longer than that, considerably sometimes. The mechanisms have been streamlined out sometimes or simplified. Everything is easy to teach and play. Turns are a little bit quicker. I like all of those things. There are some people that say the original one is better, and usually that goes hand in hand with them saying that the theme is better in the original, and I probably agree with that. This one is less thematic than the original printing, but I'll take it. I'm willing to sacrifice a little theme for a much tighter gameplay experience. So, there is that. What do I think of the game itself? I like it. I think it's a very well done game. I like the theme. I like the mechanisms. There are a lot of them, and it does feel a little bit like they took a bunch of things that are popular, threw them in a blender, and then gave you whatever came out. But you know what? It really works. I like the deck building in it. I like the action selection. I like the characters on the cards, the actions you can take, sort of area influence going on, secret identity stuff. It's a bunch, but it works, and it works well. I like the feeling at the beginning of the game and at the end of the game is very different. Not knowing who's who is near the beginning of the game is very different than out-and-out war sometimes near the end of the game, and I like it very much. I like also the fact that it works so well with the differing team sizes. This game really, I mean, that system of one player against three, which would worry me, right? It would make me think, oh, well, you get a random card. You could end up on a team by yourself. Yeah, but it works in this game. You can pull that off. You could win. You have more competition on the other team and less competition on your own team. As long as you beat one other person, you're good. I like that. It works. So the whole thing is a very tight package. Great game, good theme, not super thematic, but I still appreciate the theme that's on the game. And tight gameplay. Very much would recommend it if you enjoy those mechanisms and if you want something that's going to be not too hard to teach and you can take turns quickly in it. I also want to mention that I did not show you every card in the game, and in fact, you don't set up every card in the game. There is a stack of cards that never get shuffled out there, so from game to game, you're going to see different things. One card you did not see, for instance, is zombies. You could have a card that puts out zombie tokens on the board, and they start sort of taking over the board and taking out agents. So they might or might not be in the game, the zombies. And I like that also, the uncertainty of knowing what's out there, you know. Very cool game, highly recommended. Check this one out, folks. A Study in Emerald 2nd edition from Martin Wallace. Thumbs up from me.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.